Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. For today's preview, as the Springboks look to bounce back against Australia tomorrow in Brisbane, the Suncorp Stadium is where the match will take place. One of Australia's, it's pretty much Australia's sort of den. It's the house of pain in many ways. It's where they play their best rugby, and the Springboks, on the back of a loss, need to go there and have to get a victory if they are to try and continue to challenge for the Rugby Championship. It's pretty easy for the Springboks. Their mandate is clear. They have to win tomorrow and go back-to-back wins against New Zealand. It is a huge ask. It was always going to be a massive ask, but it just sort of increased to tenfold going down last weekend. So not the start to the Rugby Championship, second leg in many ways for the Springboks would have wanted, but an opportunity for them to try and put it right. And Jacques Nienaber and his coaching staff have backed a very similar team, as have Dave Rennie and his coaching staff. The Australians also not too changed for the game tomorrow. If we look at the other game between Argentina and Australia, plenty of changes across those teams, and we'll have that preview out a little bit later as well. Before we look at the teams and the matchups and what we can sort of expect from tomorrow, please do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel. We have also just recently launched the Forever Sports store, where you can go check shop.foreversports.net, get a range of items such as supporters tees for your teams. We've got tees for Stormers fans, Lions fans, Bulls fans, Sharks fans. We've got little bucket hats and cool and a lot of stuff like that. So go and check out the store as well. Now, in terms of the teams for tomorrow, Jacques Nienaber is sticking with his guns. There must have been temptation to rotate, and I think there probably would have been actually rotation had we not lost. But having lost, it's twofold. First of all, you've got to get this side confident again. You know, these are the 15, 23 players that will be taking on New Zealand, apart from a couple of players who might be replaced due to players returning from injury. And secondly, you know, it is your best team. So if you want to go out and get the best result, this is the team that in theory should be able to do the job. But there definitely would have been a bit of a conversation, and there would have been merit if there was rotation, but there hasn't really been. The only changes are Marvin Orie comes into the side. Leo Diaga is ruled out with concussion. He is expected to be available for next weekend. And Trevor Nyakane will start at a loose head ahead of Stephen Kitsoff, who drops to the bench, which sees Oxenchair out of the 23. But apart from that, it is an unchanged side. We look at the front row. I think Trevor has been in such good form. It'll be really good to see how he goes from a starting berth tomorrow. He's become sensational off the bench, and I personally would like to see him off the bench for New Zealand. I think him and Malcolm Marx have had pretty similar impacts in terms of just being able to shift the game when they come on. He's probably our most informed prop at the moment. Bongi Mbonambi was pretty solid last weekend, scored a try. You know, nothing particularly amazing from Bongi Mbonambi. He's not a spectacular X-Factor type player, but he just does everything so well that he's such a reliable option. And him and Malcolm Marx are forming such a good little duo in terms of being able to impact the game in both halves. And then Frans Malherbe had a bit of a quiet game last weekend. He'll be hoping for a better outing. Eben Etzebeth has a lock partner he's very used to. These two, in fact, played school rugby together, Marvin Orie and Eben Etzebeth. So it'll be very they'll be very knowledgeable about how they each other play. Sia Khaleesi will, of course, captain the side. Bit of a quiet game last weekend. Got that yellow card. Wasn't his best outing. And he said that he was quite upfront about it. He said he knows he didn't play well last weekend, but he says that that's not him. You know, the performances he put in against Argentina, the performance he put in against the British and Irish Lions, that's what he's capable of, and he needs to get back there. Franco Mosher was pretty solid last weekend. He always is, isn't he? I think, you know, I can't ever remember Franco Mosher having a bad game. He's just such a solid player. Dwayne Vermeulen was probably a little bit quieter than we would like to see last weekend, but it was his big return from injury. So hopefully we'll see a sure performance from the new Ulster number 8, signed a contract with Ulster. It was announced yesterday. He will be departing the Bulls. And then it's an unchanged backline of Faf de Klerk, Andre Pollard, who's under a lot of pressure to kick well off the boot. Interesting to see if they've maybe asked Faf de Klerk or Vili Leroux to potentially practice their kicking for goal in case Pollard does have an off day. Marcus Olma, Pimpy, Spoon, Corsi didn't really have much of a chance last week to try and chase down the balls and get ball in hand, but I thought Spoon Corsi was probably the more impressive wing, even though he did slip a couple of tackles. Mapimpi was very quiet. Damon Delindi and Lukhanyo will also be hoping to impact the game a bit more. Delindi a little bit quiet, Lukhanyo very uncharacteristically poor, and Vili Leroux, along with that yellow card, wasn't his best performance as well. So a lot of our big players have to step up this weekend. Off the bench, Malcolm Marx, Stephen Kitsoff, Vincent Koch. I don't think Stephen Kitsov is that effective off the bench compared to like a Trevor Nyakane. I think he's much better off the start, but we have to wait and see what he can do. And then we've got the three loosies, Marco van Staden, Kwagga Smith, and Jasper Wiese. Kwagga Smith, Jasper Wiese, pretty solid in terms of their role in the squad. And I think that even if we were to get Arceus Neyman and Lua Dialga back tomorrow, I reckon we'd probably stick with Kwagga Smith and Jasper Wiese and bring another lock onto the bench as long as Steph Totoy is injured, because I think Kwagga Smith has shown his value time and time again, and Jasper Wiese is the future number 8, so we've got to continue giving him experience. Herschel Yankees, look, is under a little bit of fire, but I always find it harsh to sort of judge him on the fact that he just doesn't ever get the chance. Whenever Faf de Klerk is injured, we go straight to Kobus Reinach, so I'm not quite sure what the thinking is there. But he's always had such a good impact off the bench for the Springboks in the past, which is why he continues to be backed. He scored so many tries off the bench. He's just got that knack. And then Damian Willems has gone under a lot of criticism, I think personally very unnecessary in terms of his goal kicking after missing one kick, but also having a try-saving tackle. So missing 2, saving 5, potentially 7. I think he's in the good, to be honest, but a lot of eyes on him. In terms of the Australians, this is how they line up. Also, not too many changes, but 2 in the front row. James Slipper will start at loose head, and Tanea Tupou comes in at tight head as well. So they're going to try and sort of assert their scrum dominance pretty early in the game. And then Falau Fainga will be the replacement hooker. Did receive a yellow card for grass cutter tackles, and they have raised it with the referee. So interesting to see if he manages to have the same sort of impact as he did last week. Isaac Roddick and Matt Phillip are stay in the lock combination. Nice, big, bulky. Lachlan Swinton is someone who I think was a bit lucky to not get a yellow card last weekend, but somebody who was absolutely sensational was Michael Hooper, who always sort of pushes the boundaries of the breakdown laws, and at the breakdown, he's a menace to the breakdown. He's a very good ball carrier. He's captain fantastic for Australia in many ways. He's such a class act. And it kind of comes down to needing more star quality around him, and that's what Craig Cooper provided a week ago. Rob Valentini had some very strong carries last weekend, but he would like to get into the game a little bit more. And then Nick White comes into the starting lineup. Him and Tate McDermott have swapped over, and Nick White had that brilliant kick using the 50-22 rule just when he had first come on. Very much a typical number 9. He's always in the ref's face, always in the opposition face. He's quite confrontational, which I think is probably what they're actually going to want. Try and sort of get the Springboks off their game, try and rile them up nice and early, and make sure they can't execute maybe their exit play, their set pieces as accurately as they would like. Craig Cooper is obviously keeps the spot after a fantastic game. Corey Betty, Kellaway are the 2 wings, and then Samu Karevi and Ikatau are the 2 centers. Karevi had a very solid game last weekend, very strong ball carrier. You know exactly what he brings. So, between him and Damien Daelendi, it is a very, very interesting clash. And Tom Banks, somebody who maybe hasn't had the best of years in an Australian jersey, didn't look too bad last weekend, but looked like a much more assured performance. But somebody that I think the Springboks will try and target, because they'll know, if you look at that backline, that has a potential avenue to sort of try and put them under pressure. On the bench for the Australians, Feletti, Katua, Angus Bell, and then Tom Robertson comes in as tight head replacement. Darcy Swain comes in as well as a second row cover, and Pete Samu will be the flank cover there. And then Tate McDermott, as we said, drops to the bench, and then it's Reece Hodge and Jordan Matea, much like last weekend. It should be a very interesting game. You expect the Springboks to come with a much more accurate game, but at the same time, as we said, it's a stadium, it's a crowd, it's a venue where Australia just thrives. So, the odds really are stacked up against South Africa, but that's when they play their best rugby. And I think we all can agree, we know that South Africa had done enough last weekend to win the game. So all they need to do is execute a similar sort of strategy, be more accurate, probably not concede as many penalties where they can take the points, make sure they take their points on offer. They can get the result. The question is, will they? Let me know what your score predictions are down in the comments below. I'm going to go South Africa I think I've said South Africa by 12 last night. I'm going to try to be overly optimistic. It's more my heart talking than my head, but let me know what your score predictions are. Smash like on the video as well. And to go and check out our shop.foreversports.net. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you very soon.